Hi and welcome. Thank you all for joining us today for our facility tour at the Fort Morgan Police Department. My name is Amanda Hawley and I'm the Pathways Coordinator at Generation Schools Network. Today we are here with Chief Sharp, Commander Brown, and Sergeant Schiel. And they are going to be giving us a tour of their department. We're excited. I'll let them give you a little bit of background information about themselves and then we will get started.
All right, I'm Steve Brown, the Support Services Commander for the Police Department. I am basically in charge of the building and all the vehicles and equipment within the building.
I'm Sergeant Schiel with the Fort Morgan Police Department. As you know, basically I assist him with the same things that he addressed already. I take care of all the training records, fleet, equipment needs for the department.
And I'm Loren Sharp. I'm the Chief of Police here at the Fort Morgan Police Department. I've been here for about 28 and a half years, kind of worked my way up the chain from officer through these ranks to be the chief. So I've been able to start at the line level and work my way to the top and within the Fort Morgan Police Department.
Thank you guys. All right. And also, if you guys have questions as we are on the tour, feel free to type them in the chat and we will answer them as we go. There will also be time at the end for any questions that you might have as well. All right. Take it away, guys.
All right.
This
is our downstairs portion of our police department, and this is where our investigators work out of and handle all of the investigations that come in. We have one detective sergeant that runs the unit, and then we have 4 investigators that help with any investigations that patrol needs or anything else that comes into the police department. This is just kind of a lab room to help with investigations for any evidence processing, all the equipment that they may need out on the call, or any cell phone distractions that they do that come in. So in here
is our workout room. And in this room is where officers work out, keep themselves in shape for the job. As you can see, we offer a lot of different equipment for them. And yeah.
Why might keeping yourself in shape be a pertinent thing to do when it comes to being a police officer?
Being in shape is one of the key things for an officer, especially if you're dealing with people who are not cooperating and want to resist. If you have to take them into custody and use a response to their resistance, the best thing to do is be in shape so that you're able to overcome that person in the safest way possible without getting yourself hurt and without getting them hurt.
Thank you.
now we're kind of on the back side of our police department. What this is right here is just kind of temporary lockers that officers use to store evidence that they get out on scene before it gets actually taken into our evidence vault. And kind of what you saw downstairs for investigations, this is where patrol kind of does all the processing for all of their evidence that comes in, as well as 2 computers. One of them is used for any evidence logging that gets brought into the police department, and then the other one is for all photographs that are taken out on scene for them to upload.
When dealing with evidence, why might integrity be something that is of importance to have as a police officer?
So integrity is important, especially when it comes to evidence, because we have to hold and maintain a chain of custody with any evidence that comes into our facility. And the reasoning is that if that ever gets brought into question or is not processed correctly, then that can be raised up in court and we can lose that piece of evidence when it comes to a trial. So it's very important that we keep a good, clean chain of custody for all evidence that gets processed through.
Thank you.
This is the squad room. We call it the squad room because this is where all of our patrols do all of their computer work, where they do all of their case reports, type anything that needs to be sent, check their emails, anything that they can't handle actually on their computers into or in their vehicle. So, and they also can store any of their personal property stuff in their individual lockers too.
This is something I'm especially proud of. We, on every call that we have the person who makes the phone call has an opportunity to do a survey for us that gets sent to them via text message. And it helps us understand if we're meeting the needs of our community. So every time an officer goes out to the call, people have the right to give a feedback score from 1 to 5, and then they have the right to give some message on there what they liked. So we play this for the officers because we have an overwhelmingly positive response. We have about 96% of the people have given us a 4 or 5 out of 5. So very high scores. And then this gives up the person the opportunity to say thank you to the officer and to tell them, gives us an opportunity to let the officers know that they are appreciated in the community as well.
That's awesome.
And then this room here is basically our sergeant's offices. Each sergeant has their own desk where they can store all of their personal information, files, whatever they need for their shifts. We have 4 different shifts that run patrol, so therefore there are 4 different sergeants. And then this is called our armory. Basically, we just store, and it's a place for our armors to fix or have any problems with our duty issued firearms that are issued to us, place for them to work on those. So this is our training room. It's also used for community meetings. Some other agencies or departments may come in here and actually book this room to have trainings or meetings if they need to. But we do all of our trainings inside here that are in-house. And we also hold briefings every once in a while that are in here to update ongoing and outgoing shifts.
I would also point out on the wall over there and up here, you see our mission, vision, and value statements. And if you go around the building, you've probably seen them in several places. They're in the hallway, they're at the bottom of the stairs, they'll be in our conference room. We really want people to understand what we're here for. And our mission, vision, and values are something that everybody in our department should embrace. And we really try to live up to those mission, vision, values.
That's wonderful.
And speaking of a mission, the mission of the police department is keep the community safe. So I mean, if we want to get down to the basics of what the police department does and what the patrol officers do, we're in the squadron. We go out and we patrol the city and we deal with the crime, but we also try to interact with the community so that we have that relationship with them. So that if something does happen, they're comfortable about calling us and letting us know what's going on. So the ultimate goal of the police department is to make sure that the community is safe and that we have a good relationship with them as well. So we'll move into here. I know part of this is a career field, so we're supposed to be talking a little bit about that. We're kind of been giving you a tour. So one of the things that we do as a police, part of a negotiator, when someone is having some type of crisis, and as you've seen on the movies, I'm sure you all seen the movies where someone's in a house and they won't come out and the police all show up. And then you have some police officer trying to talk to them on the phone. That's what this unit does. And this is the equipment that they utilize when they're doing it, or one of the pieces of equipment that they utilize when we're doing it. We have a main console, we have a command console, we have a SWAT console and a tactical console. And all of these are used together so that we can work on talking that individual down and then out so that we can help them down the line.
So could you speak
Go
a little bit to why communication skills would be super important with this piece of your job specifically?
Communication skills are very important. If you actually look over here, part of communication is listening. And that is one of the things that we do in being a negotiator is active listening, kind of what you do in the classroom. You have to listen to what your teacher's saying so you understand what the assignments are. When we're talking to people, we need to actively listen to them so we understand what the real issue is, because they'll talk about everything, but you just got to figure out what the real issue is, try to make that connection with them and then talk them out. So being able to do that is very important. And just being able to do that on a day-to-day basis when you're dealing with the public is also very important. So that when you're doing a traffic contact or you're dealing with someone who's a victim of a violent crime, you have to be able to have some type of empathy for them and be able to relay that to them so that they will tell you everything that's going on.
And that is the primary skill for any police officer, not just a negotiator, but any police officer has to have excellent communication skills. That's the number one thing we're looking for when we're looking for somebody, because we always want a peaceful resolution to every problem. We don't ever want to have to use force. We don't ever want to have to get to that point. We have to be prepared for it if that person dictates it, but we also have to want to try to communicate with them and calm them down. And even if that means going to jail, We want it to be peaceful for them to go to jail and not get injured, for them and for us. So that communication is always the most important piece as a police officer in every role.
Thank you.
So I won't show them to you, but off the left is just our locker rooms for our male and women to change out on and off duty. This back hallway here is where we have 3 interview rooms. Each room has video and audio recordings. This is only 3 of the rooms that we have those. We also have 1 interview room downstairs that gets utilized by investigations.
And again, to talk about the communication skills and how important it is, whether we're interviewing a suspect, a victim, a witness, having that ability to communicate, listen, and know what they're telling us is the most important skill we can have.
This is our kitchen or our lounge, just a place for officers to put in either food or beverages or lunch for the day or dinner, whatever shift they're working. They're both hold temporary inmates and before they went to jail. Now it's more of a storage and where we do fingerprint processing. We still do old school where we actually roll our fingerprints in ink and use actual pads for those. So. And this back room is just a sally port. It's just a place for officers to clean out their car from daily usage, to vacuum them out, barrel up a tire, whatever the case may be.
So this is the equipment room, and these are all the tools that patrol officers use when they're out doing their job. Of course, everything's checked out, so I can't show you. Anyway, these are radars and lidars. That's what holds those things. When you see an officer standing or sitting on the side of the road holding a little device, he is checking your speed. That's what these do. That's just another one of the duties that police officers do. I know a lot of people think that they're just out trying to harass people when they're doing speed enforcement, but it's actually a safety thing, because if you're traveling above what the suggested or the posted speed limit is, you are creating risk not only for yourself but everybody else is on the road, because the faster you're going, the harder it is for you to stop your vehicle. Something happens in front of you, that distance decreases exponentially. So there's a reason why those signs are there, not just arbitrary numbers that they thrown out there. So anyway, that's what those are. Those are for medical and AEDs. I'm sure they're posted all over the schools, but
and then they also have the capability to check out any cell phones, so that every officer on duty has the ability to at least call or accept phone calls. And if they don't want to use their personal cell phone, then they can use an agency cell phone for that.
communication.
These are just our individual command staff offices. Our police chief, our commanders, and then our lady that holds everything together, our administrative assistant. So she works harder probably than all of us combined.
Do you want to tell them talk about your position, how you got there, and what it is you do?
Yeah, so my office is in the corner, and like I said before, I'm the administrative sergeant here at Fort Worth Police Department. I came here in 2013, and I started with an agency out with Union County Sheriff's Office before that, and worked right out of high school. I was 17 years old when I first started in law enforcement, and as soon as I turned 18, I started working for the jail out there, and then when I turned 21, they sent me to the academy and became a patrol deputy. So I worked since I was really young, and this has just been a passion of mine and something that I've always wanted to work at since I was very little. So I started when I was young, I worked my way up, and since I came over here, I've been a patrol officer, I've been in investigations. I went to become a corporal back on patrol, and then I was the detective sergeant, and now I'm the administrative sergeant, learning a whole different aspect of how to run a police department. So I've held several capacities and several hats throughout my career so far.
And I'm Steve Brown. I'm the support services commander. I started in 2000. I have done just about everything that Sergeant Schiel has done. Started a patrolman. I've been on the bike patrol. I have been on the SWAT team. I've been an investigator, and then I became a patrol sergeant. Then I went back to investigations as a detective sergeant. We created the administrative sergeant position, and I got promoted to that. Was also a field training officer. So basically what we're saying is there are so many different opportunities that you can do as a police officer. It's not just working the road. You can investigate, you can train, you can be on the SWAT team, you can be the crisis negotiator. There are a lot of opportunities. It's not just one stop shop here. And in our department, you get all those opportunities and you can do them just being a patrol officer. You can wear several different hats at one point in time. And I'll let the chief talk.
I'll say, I mean, that's what I always say. Why do people want to be a police officer? Raise your hand if you get bored sitting in class doing the same thing all the time. I can't see your hand anyway. You don't need to raise it. But if we get bored sitting in class all the time, one of the great things about being a police officer, especially in a department like this, is you have the opportunity to do exactly what Commander Brown said. You can work patrol, you can be the guy running the radar or working traffic and handling domestic violence cases and arresting people. Or you can go downstairs and work in investigations where you can do that type of work, more complicated cases, the homicides, sex assaults, more complicated, bigger type cases. Or you can go to school and be a school resource officer and work in a school. And then the jobs that nobody really knows really go on, even in a police department, are what these two guys do. You know, the community, the support services and the admin sergeant really are the meat of how we get the job done. So they're not out there handling the call. You're not going to see them on the call, but if not for them, we wouldn't have cars, we wouldn't have uniforms, we wouldn't have all those little things that people don't think about. So there's that aspect of the job. You can be a police officer, but you can do anything that you can do outside of law enforcement pretty much is in a law enforcement job. So, you know, my 28 years, like Commander Brown said, I've been able to do so many things, including K9. Some different things that are just out there. There's opportunities that you don't have in another world, but you're also not pigeonholed into one job doing the same thing for your whole career. You can do many jobs within law enforcement from all the way through. So I always think that's an exciting thing, and that's something that most people desire. Most people, you get a job, you just do the same thing over and over and over, and it gets redundant. Even though it may be redundant for after a few years, there's opportunities to change within that same field and do something completely different. So hopefully that what we're looking for is people with the servant's heart, someone that really wants to serve the people, that somebody that understands our role. Our role is not to tell you how to do your job or live your life, but to make sure that the community is safe. As Commander Brown also said earlier, we want to keep the community safe, and we want to do it as peaceful as possible. So I'm having those communication skills and really having people that want to serve the people and recognizing we work for the citizens, not the other way around, and just understanding that. So that's what we're looking for. Not looking for the guy that wants to go around and shoot people and beat people up. That's not a police officer. That's absolutely the last thing we want. And we do a very strict hiring process. Our hiring process for law enforcement is very complicated. It starts with an application process like everyone else, then turns into an interview. We do what we call a PEP, which is a personality profile, basically to see if you're fit, if you have good ethics, morals, things like that. If you fit that, we end up doing a background. We go talk to all of your neighbors, all of your family, all of your friends, people that are not your friends, your enemies, because we learn more from your enemies than we do from your friends, right? We learn all about that. Then if you're still suitable, we end up doing a chief's interview. Then you go to a psychological exam. You go to a psychologist who looks to make sure that you also are going to be a good fit and not that person that's what we just discussed that we don't want. And if you do that, then you go through a full physical to make sure that you're physically capable. You do a drug test screen, and then you're hired. So very long, complicated process, much longer than most any other job you would go to. But it's very important that we find the right people, and we don't find people that are going to be unethical, immoral, causing issues in the community. We want to be trusted in the community. So that's why we do all of that.
Then even, I'll just add on to it. Once you actually get hired, you're just hired, right? You still, if you haven't gone through an academy, that's still going to be another 6 months of going through an academy, learning all the things you need that are essential in doing your job safely. And getting qualified, learning how to use those, those 3 essential things: driving a vehicle, because you're driving a lot, using a firearm, and in case you ever have to engage in that hands-on, knowing that you can do it safely for both individuals. So you learn those things, and then even once you get past the academy and you graduate that, you go into what we call a field training program. And you're in that for about 4.5 months right now, where you're out learning the actual on-the-job functions with somebody that's been in that position to train you.
So while it doesn't take a college degree to be a police officer, there's always that time frame from 18 to 21. You can't be a police officer until 21. It's always that time, that 3 years, right? So I would encourage anybody to try to go to school, to go to college, or to get a job. But if you want to be a police officer, look for that work history. Make sure you got a good, solid work history doing something. We're not looking for somebody that skips jobs and goes into 10 different jobs in 2 years. We're looking for somebody that wants to be in a career. So we hire people all the time. Some have degrees, some don't have degrees. But to his point, when we hire somebody, we are in the hiring process right now. We hope to have somebody hired by January. It'll take us about 3 months to get people hired. Then they'll go to the academy. It'll be about this time next year before they're actually working on the street by themselves. It'll take that long to train somebody. So even though you might not go to a college to get a degree, you're going to go through a lot of academic testing at an academy. That's why school is important in understanding how your role and how to be a good student, whether you want to go to college or you want to be a police officer, you still got to be a good student because you still have to pass a test. And then you come back here, then you do, like I said, 4.5 months of training with an officer that you're evaluated every day before you're able to go on your own. So it's a long process, but I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah.
And we actually have some questions.
Okay.
If you guys don't mind answering from students. How do you become a police chief?
Well, you have a lobotomy. So there's, I mean, of course, education is important. And most police chiefs are required to have at least a bachelor's degree, if not a master's degree, but you don't have to have that to start out as a police officer. So in my case, for example, I didn't. I went to a 2-year college. I got an associate's degree. I decided I didn't want to be a teacher like I planned, and I wanted to be a police officer. So I went to the academy. I became a police officer instead. It wasn't until I moved up the chain and, you put in your work and you prove your worth at every level. As I started to move up, I went back to school and did get my bachelor's degree in criminal justice later before I became the chief. So it's really just putting in the time and learning the job and hopefully proving that you're capable of doing it as you move up.
And I would assume leadership would probably be an important quality to have as a chief. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so leadership is by far the most important quality and something that we've really emphasized in our department. We have from the corporal level, the lowest, that's the first lowest level of supervision. We start doing supervision and leadership training, and we do a lot of leadership training. By the time you hit their level, they've each done 10 weeks in a police command school. I've done 10 weeks in Quantico, Virginia at the National Academy. So we do a lot of training that's just based on leadership. All of that is leadership based. And then we do a lot of training leading up to that. So yeah, leadership is important at every level, even the officer level. To be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. You can't have one without the other. It takes both. So.
All right, thank you. How do you get promoted? Time on the job, test scores, like what does that look like, that process of promotion?
So for us, the promotion process now, we have assessment centers. Oftentimes we hire somebody from outside to come in with an assessment center, and they provide testing. And it'll be something that none of us here know what that testing entails, so that we can't cheat, we can't give them any information. But they'll set up scenarios that are basic for that job that they're testing for. Oftentimes it's multiple rooms. You may go into one center and they're going to give you a scenario that you have to work through. There will be assessors that are not from around here that know none of the applicants, so they don't have any bias, and they will actually determine whether that person has the leadership skills, the decision-making skills, whatever it may take for that level, and then they make that suggestion up the chain till the chief makes that determination as to who should be appointed in that position.
Thank
So
you.
we keep it a fair process, but it's pretty complicated.
Sounds like it. How long are the shifts you work?
So the shifts that we work here are 12 hours even. Yeah, for patrol. So patrol works 12 hours. Like I said before, there's 4 different shifts. So it depends on which side of the week you're on. You're either working from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, or 6 at night to 6 in the morning. So when they rotate out, we work a schedule right now where every officer has every other weekend off. So they have a chance to have every other Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Outside of that, all of our administrations and our investigations and records, they all work 8 hours a day from Monday through Friday. So kind of normal office jobs, but those can vary quite a bit too, depending on what's coming in throughout that week. So sometimes investigations, if they have a call, they're subject to call out, or at least one of them subject to call out, and they can call in whoever else they need for resources, and those hours could be up to 16 hours of what we can work sometimes. So.
What is the pay? So could you talk a little bit about starting salary?
Yeah, that's a little complicated because we're in the middle of a salary survey, so that will adjust. Right now, a starting officer starts around 54,000 and goes up to 83 as an officer, 83,000 a year. That's low. We know that. Fort Collins, for example, is $100,000 as a police officer, and then it goes up to each rank goes higher than that. We are in the middle of a salary survey, like I said, so we're going to determine what our salary should be. We haven't had one for a few years, but our top paid officers are at 83,000 as an officer. Sergeants start around 85, commanders start around 90, a little over 90. So that's about what it is there. It just goes up at each rank, of course.
Thank you. What are some lesser known jobs within the police department? So what are some other opportunities students might have if they want to be involved in the Fort Morgan Police Department, but don't necessarily want to go to the police academy?
Well, and I think there's a lot of those. I mean, I think you probably saw records up front. Records, they actually type all of the reports. So every officer goes and takes a report. They're very essential in collecting that data, putting it in there. We have to report all of the crime statistics to the federal government and state. So all of those, when you see those crime statistics and how much crime there is, that's because these records people like to enter that information into the system for us. So that's an essential function. Also, if you need a copy of a report, if an officer did come out there and need a copy of the report, they're the people that get that report for you and give it to you. Then we have the administrative assistant that's in there that does a lot of our work for us to help us with those things that are not police related. Those are the primary functions.
The two that I'll add on too is that are underneath me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. So recently, we had always a code enforcement officer. They don't have to be certified for anything, but they go out and handle all of our ordinance violations, parking violations, weeds, those types of things. And then we recently started a community engagement technician position. Again, it's a non-certified position. It's for a person that's looking that gets into law enforcement, can come in. They do kind of the same functions as a code enforcement, but then they can also learn, a little bit more about patrol. So they help with accident investigations. They do cold case thefts, take any of those crimes that don't require a police officer to actually respond to a scene. And then she can take those and learn a little bit more about what an officer does prior to becoming 21 and going to the academy.
And I think that's important because in the police department, there's no job that's more important than another. My job is no more important than theirs or the records tech or the code enforcement officer. We all have to work together to get the job done. I can't do everything that these guys are doing, and they can't do everything that everybody else is doing. It takes all of us together. So that's a good question, and that's one that I think we often see the police officer, but you don't see all those people behind the scenes that really we wouldn't be able to do our job without them. So.
This is an interesting one. Can you be a police officer if you have a criminal record?
That's complicated. So if there's a felony conviction, you cannot be a police officer. If there's misdemeanor convictions, you can in some cases. But when we do that background investigation, we're going to want to know what that is. For example, how long ago? If you were 15 when you did something stupid and you're now 25, but you're a different person, that's probably not a problem. If you're 22 and you did something stupid and you're applying next week, that's probably a problem. So time goes by. So there are people that have been convicted of misdemeanors when they were 18 that are police officers. So yes, but it depends. We want to know what those crimes are and that's not who that person is today. We've all made stupid decisions. We've all made mistakes in our life, and that's every one of us here have done things that we wish we had never done. We made mistakes. So we're not looking for that perfect person, but we want to know that that's not the person that you are today when you're working.
Thank you. I love that response.
Is it
How
just,
many cases do you have on a normal day?
Tom's doing it too.
Ooh, that's a good question. We handle about, this year, we're gonna be on pace for about 28,000 calls per year in the year. So, you know, if you do the math, I don't know, a little less than 100 a day, we handle calls, about 100 a day.
I thought you said.
Public service.
Cases, or, well, calls for service. As far as cases, not all of those calls for service will be cases. So for example, even a traffic accident might not necessarily be a case, or a call to check on somebody's welfare wouldn't be a case, but those are all calls for service that we're going to get. So cases, we're probably going to be around 3,000, probably somewhere around 3,000 in a year that actually take more work besides just the response to that call.
Any regrets about coming into this line of work? A student wants to know.
Not for me, none at all. Nope. I got into the job for the wrong reasons. I got into the job because I thought it sounded fun, not because I wanted to help people. It took me about probably 5 years to realize it was the wrong thing, and everything changed for me to want to help people, and that it changed after the fact. But to me, it was the best thing that ever happened.
And to me, like I said before, I got into the shop because I'm really passionate about it. That hasn't changed from day one. I'm still passionate about it. I still love what I do.
And for me, again, like the chief, I was either going to become a teacher or go into law enforcement. I chose law enforcement. Got my degree in sociology with an emphasis in criminal justice. And here I am. So
And I think we have one more. Could each of us tell you what the best part of the job is?
Well, so today, it depends on which part, where you are in your career, right? For me as the chief, the best part is getting to serve the people that work here. Yes, I serve the people, but most of what I'm doing is serving the people here that are working for the people in the public. And so it's an opportunity for me to lead and to serve these guys who then in turn lead the other people.
So for me, and again, from my position where I'm at right now, it's being able to help all the officers that are actually in, this field and work for FMPD, making sure that they have all the equipment, all their needs to be able to do their job every day. And on top of that, being engaged with the community. Before, when you're a patrol officer, you're engaged with the community all the time. Now in my position, I engage with the community in a whole different role where it's the citizens, it's the police panel, it's the Citizens Academy that goes on during the summer. It's building that barbecue with the blue event that we do during the summer, and really getting out there and engaging with the community more on a different level.
and same, except each facet of the job has its own benefit. Being a patrol officer, when I was a patrol officer, I really enjoyed going out and running traffic and dealing with the public and doing those things and investigating cases. When I went into investigations, I enjoyed it because I enjoyed doing solving the crimes and working those different types of things and getting that satisfaction of pushing the case through that was a lot more complicated than what you would have done on patrol. And then as a field training officer, you were basically developing the department. You were creating the people who are going to be taking your place eventually and making sure that those individuals are doing the job correctly. As a detective sergeant, again, you're in charge of all the guys who are doing the investigating and making sure that they're doing everything and solving cases and helping those victims out that can't help themselves out. Moving in this position and that position, completely different animal. Don't deal with the people as much, and you deal with the building, you deal with the vehicles. I guarantee you, and when I got into this position, I did not know I was going to learn all the things I was going to learn. I learned how to do put the HVAC system. We had to put in a new HVAC system. Learned about HVAC. Had to put a new roof on it. Learned all about roofing. Didn't know a lot of words about roofing. I didn't know. I was stuck with. Put in a new security fence around here. We put in a new security camera system. We just redid the parking lot. I mean, those are all the things that I've done. And it's a satisfaction every time I pull up onto the department. I look and say, okay, I had a piece of that and I helped do that. And hopefully somewhere down the line, when whoever moves into my spot will get that same satisfaction. And then when I'm retired, if I'm still in the area, I can drive by and say, yeah, I did that if the building's still standing.
And so there's a couple things that to me are big goals. One of them, we have about a $5 million budget. We spend about $5 million of taxpayers' money every year. So I want to make sure that we're fiduciarily responsible, that we're not wasting people's money, that we're doing the right thing, that people are getting what they pay for. At the same time, like Commander Brown said, it's my job to prepare the next person to replace me. And that's what that's what I say the most satisfaction for me now is serving them and hopefully putting them in a position that when I'm ready to leave and not before I'm ready to leave, when I'm ready to leave, they're ready to come in and take over. And we're in a good position and better than we are today. We always want to be striving for improvement. And that's not just through me, that's through everybody else. So we all in a leadership position have that ability to help influence other people to be better than they are. And they push us to be better than we are today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time today. We learned so much. We respect everything that you guys are doing for the community. If students want to learn more, who should they contact? Who should they reach out to?
Thank you for holding me for Sergeant Schiel, or we would be more than happy to answer any questions. They want to come down and visit us. Feel free. Yeah,
If you see an officer on the street, go up and talk.
We're open for tours, open for ride-alongs. There's some stipulations out. If somebody wants to come ride along with the police officer, get a hold of us. We'll try to schedule some of that stuff too for a couple hours. Let you kind of see what that job is like on the street. So open for all kinds of things. Whatever you're looking for, we're happy to help.
Thank you, guys. And thank you guys for being such a great audience and asking wonderful questions. Have a great rest of your day.